Hi, we're doing a video here showing how to do a layout of a woodworking plan in Sketchup. We've done a few of these in the past. One of them was a boot bench, hall boot bench. I think we did a laundry room layout, did an Adirondack chair. Also a plow and hearth drop down table. But this one we had to do anyway. Not sure if these are helping anybody, but since I had to do a little layout anyway to see how much wood I needed for this plan, figured I would go ahead and record this. So first step that we take is that I take is I go ahead and import the graphic of the project. You can see this is a real simple stool plan. It comes from Family Handyman. I'm just going to make a couple of these, one for my workshop, one for a little maker space. So I think I can probably get this done with 2-foot by 4-foot sheet of plywood. So let's start there. So we'll go ahead and say 2-foot. We grab the rectangle tool and put it at our center point, origin point. Drag it out, and if you look to the lower right of the screen, you'll see the dimensions change. And all that you need to do to alter those dimensions manually is to start typing. You don't need to click anywhere, just start typing. This is honestly one of the more confusing things of how to do this simply. So the one dimension we know is 2 feet, so I'm going to type 2 with the foot sign, which is a single quote. For the second dimension, you put a comma. So I'll do 2 foot, comma, 4 foot, and then hit enter. And you'll see the object just jump to that size. So that's 2 feet by 4 feet. For confirmation, you can see 24 inches by 48 inches. And that puts our giant image into perspective, which is kind of funny, but it's fine. So we know we have to be 14 inches by 16 inches on, looks like our largest piece. Yep, because our top is 12 by 18. So we're just going to go 14 by 16. I'm just going to draw some squares first. I'm going to just turn this into I'm going to select all connected and then make this a component. This way it's not going to take the shape of what I lay down on top of it. So we will just call this 2 by 4 ply. Okay, so now I'll be able to lay things down on top of it and move it without the objects connecting. So I know that I need this 14 inches by 16 inches. There's a taper there, but I'm not worried about that yet. I know the top is only 10 inches, so that will mean I just take 2 inches from each side and draw a line. So again, we want the biggest rectangle, 14 inch by 16 inch. So again, we'll do what we did before. We just look at the the bottom right, and we will go, I'm going to go 16 comma 14. Already working in inches, so I do not need to put the inch sign. When I was doing the 2-foot by 4-foot layout, I did have to do that to designate feet. So there, we have what should be a 14 by 16. It looks a little off just because we have a skewed perspective. I'll show you how to drop and do a straight down overhead view. Click on your camera menu item and go to standard views, top. It'll drop you straight down over the top. So let's go ahead and do another one of these rectangles. You could force it to this dimension, but instead I'm just going to go ahead and type 14 comma 16, and we're set with that. So now we know our top is 12 by 18. So let's see what we have dimension-wise over here. We do not have 12. Of course we do have that. We're going to go ahead. I think I'm going to end up changing up this layout, but let's go ahead for now. I should be making these rectangles all individual, but I think it's gonna bite us in a little bit. So I know I need to be 12 by 18. So if you look to the bottom right, I know the long side is first. So 18 comma 12, and we have our top piece, and then our little shelf is 10 by 14, and whoops. Let's measure to see if we have that. 10. We do. I'm not taking into account the saw curve, so this will be a little skinnier than the actual 10 by 14. But for now, we are just going to go up to, this would be 14 by 10 is what we need. One little tip is if you are running along a side, if you look to the lower right, we're obviously at that 10-inch number. And if I need 14 by 10, all that I need to type is that first number. All that I need to type is 14, comma, enter, and it will force that 14 by 10. Okay, so we have that object. So we have the two sides, the top, the lower shelf. This is probably not the optimal layout. I think I'm going to change this up, but if I do that, I'm afraid I won't be able to get the 10 by 14 out of it. So we'll see. It's really just like a little puzzle. So then these 1 by 2 pieces, we should also be able to get those out of there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, all 1.5 by 14s. Yeah, pretty simple, and that's all that we need. So let's go ahead and go 14, comma 1.5. I can do 1.5, or I could do 1 space 1 / half to show the fraction. So either way works. If I was being more efficient with this, I would probably duplicate objects. I just wanted to do a rough layout to know that I can get this out of a 2 by 4 sheet. So it's a simple project, and it doesn't have to be exact either. If I didn't have the full 10-inch dimensions, 10-inch dimension, 10-inch width for that bottom little shelf piece, it is not a big deal. It could be 9. It doesn't really matter. It's really just a little tray that goes in the center. If I wanted to keep it exact, then I would be a stickler for that little 1/8 inch saw cut kerf line. But here I'm not. So same with these 14, comma 1.5, and I could repeat these by creating an object, but I won't bother here. So we'll just proof of concept, do our layout, 14, comma 1.5. There. So there you have it. We have our layout for basically the cuts. Now the only thing we need to do, we could draw in this little oval, but that's going to be something we just measure up in freeform. Really fit it, make it the size you want. If I were doing it, I might do it a little bit differently. I might put 2 slots up there so that I have an actual like handle to grab onto, make it a little more stability, and gives the ability to hold something flat a little easier. So now we're going to make these little angles. So we know we're going from the 14-inch side up to a side that, if you look at this measurement, is 10. So it's pretty simple. We know there's 2 inches off of each side, and then draw a diagonal line. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll show you how. You click on the measuring tape, and we're going to draw a guideline. So we just let it snap to the edge, click our left mouse button, and drag over, type 2, and that tells it we want it to be in 2 inches, and hit enter. So that snaps it to 2 inches. Same thing on this side. Click once, drag our line over. I would hit 2, but it already knows that's what I want to do. If you want to look to the lower right, it knows I want to be at 2, but I'm going to hit 2 anyway, just so that there's no mistaking it, and hit enter. Okay, so then all that I need to do is jump up to the point and draw these lines. If I had made this a 3-dimensional piece of plywood, I would be able to push these objects out and actually make it into something that's hollow, or that takes the sides away. Now, if we look at the little cutout here, it does not give it it does give a dimension. So we're 4 inches from the edge, 4 inches from each edge, and then 4 3/4 up. This is not an exact science on this, but we're going to hold it fairly close to that. I'm going to go ahead and delete these current guides. I could do that by clicking and deleting each one, or I could just go to Edit, Delete Guides, and it would get rid of every guide that we've shown in the piece. If we want to erase things, make it look a little more like our project, well, we could do that. And you can see the pieces sort of take shape for us. So again, our dimensions here, we know 4 inches down here. We also know 4 3/4 up. So we're going to do a couple more guidelines. Let's resize this to make it a little easier to view. This is the Resize tool, scale tool, excuse me. And when you click on it once, it will give you these guide handles so that we can just simply resize the object. And we just need to click outside of that, and that locks in our resizing. Let's move it over a little closer. And then again, 4 3/4. Because we're doing two different ones, let's go ahead and go 4 inches over. I did a little, not mistake, but if I just click on this line, excuse me, this point, it's not going to draw a line 4 inches in. It's going to put a point along this line. See, so instead of that, I want a big visual guide, and I want it to extend all the way over here so that I can make a simple notch to cut out over there. So I will click here on that opposite line, and I know that the points meet, so I just need to type 4, and I know that everything's correct. And then again, we're going up 4 3/4, so I'll drag my guide up and type 4.75 and hit enter. So that's our cutout, but the cutout is tapered and it's perpendicular to this line. That will be interesting. Let's see. Could do this a couple of different ways. I want to see if it figures it out for us. We want to be perpendicular to this line. It figured it out. If you notice, when you move in SketchUp and get a line with a different object, it sort of figures out that that's what you want to work with. So if you're trying to match a line, be parallel to that line, I simply moved my pencil over to that and just let it sit there for a second. And then when I moved back over to create that opposite line, it completely understood what I was trying to do. I'm going to do a similar thing on the other side. I could do it differently, but we know this works. If you look, it's not trying to snap anywhere right now. If I go slowly, it knows it's on the line, it doesn't try and snap. The moment I touch that point, give it a second, and then head back over, it suddenly knows I want to snap to be perpendicular to that line. So it's really an amazing program in many ways, and that's just one of them. So you see I have that 4 3/4 up, 4-inch legs on each side, and I can recreate that. I could do it different ways. I could actually take this little space, whoops, Control C to copy that. I could paste it down here, rotate that, and I touch the rotate tool and I just set it anywhere on the same plane, click it once to lock it in, and then move to a 90, and I know I want to turn it 180, so I just go to the opposite 90, and then I'll take that item, grab one of the corners that I know I can line up over here, whoops, go to my guide, and you can see it snaps right to my guide. It doesn't want to jump anywhere else. Click once, now it's locked into place. And then I could go ahead and erase these things and actually make my objects if I wanted to, but kind of unnecessary. So there you have it, a 2-foot by 4-foot sheet of plywood that takes this stool from a Family Handyman plan and turns it into a little cutting diagram or layout. I don't think it's an ideal layout. I could be wrong though. If I rotate these sideways, I might not have room for the bottom shelf piece. So for now, this works for us, and I hope it helps someone in just doing a simple sheet layout. Let's delete our guides to clean it up a little bit. So hopefully it gave someone a little insight in how to do a sheet layout when you have a simple plan like this and want to see where your parts will fit. So if you have any questions, feel free to post a comment below. We'd love to hear them, and we'd love it if you would subscribe to the channel, and have any requests for additional content in the future, just put a comment below under any of the videos. We'll get that and be happy to help you out. Thanks for watching.